Hey, what's going on, guys? It's VenomousFatman here. I'm here on the BITT, the boys in the tube, and I got a very special guest with me today. I'm hanging out with the beautiful Andrea Rene. How's it going, Andrea?
Hey, it's going really good. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
No problem. We really appreciate you coming on here, so let's get this thing started. So, first things first. For all the people out there, obviously, you pretty much everybody that's into gaming knows you. But for the few out there that maybe don't know exactly who you are, or pretty much not into the know-how like we are, give like a brief summary of what you're all about.
All right, well, for people that aren't familiar with my work, I am a video games reporter and producer. I'm currently working with an online outlet called Clever Games, which is part of Clever Media. We are an online news network that has a TV, movie, and music channel as well. And I do daily news stories about video games and reviews and previews and hands-on stuff and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's kind of like what I do in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun. Like, to you, like, pretty much what you do, is it something that you really enjoy? Is it something that, you love talking about? The idea about talking about video games or just getting in the know-how about video games?
Oh, absolutely. I think anyone that's in games journalism or games reporting or hosting or whatever will tell you that they absolutely love games because first and foremost, getting into games is not an easy sector of the kind of media field to get into. It's very niche. Your knowledge has to be very vast, and you have to be a gamer. I mean, certainly there's some people that have more knowledge than others, but I mean, you don't do this just because you landed in it. Like, I feel like most people really seek this out, and it's one of those things that they do because they love. And I'm absolutely a video game lover and been a video game fan for all of my life, and it always kind of cracks me up whenever I have viewers on the site say, "Oh, I bet you she never even plays video games."
Wow.
There would be no way for me to do my job if I didn't. So yes, definitely lots of fun.
So let's kind of explore that a little bit because, the general stereotype, I know with you, as well as a couple other game journalists out there, that are women, that are doing pretty much is the same thing, if not similar to what you do. Tell us a little bit, like, your feelings on that whole thing, kind of a little more detail.
You mean about being a female in the games industry?
Yes.
Well, obviously, we're definitely a minority by far, and just seeing all the different game personalities on all the outlets is proof of that. But, I mean, I don't necessarily feel like I am kind of at a disadvantage, except with maybe perhaps in the eyes of some viewers. I definitely feel some backlash from people who troll in comments and, comment on my appearance or the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm a girl, or that they would kill me if we were to go head-to-head in a match and things like that, kind of like schoolyard stuff. But, I mean, I think being a woman in media in general kind of has its fallbacks. I think no matter what area of media you're in, if you're a female, that you're kind of discriminated against in general. I mean, even being a woman in the workplace at large, I think that's just a problem. So you can't let that bother you or get you down, or let that be the focus of your existence. You deal with incidences as they arise, and then you let them go and do your job and have fun. There's plenty of people out there that have enough respect for me, regardless of the fact that I'm a woman or not.
Sounds cool, but for the record, just as an avid fan of your work, there is absolutely nothing wrong with your appearance whatsoever on anything that you do. But moving on from there, I know you said that, to get into the whole video game journalism or to get into the game industry itself is hard. It's a hard endeavor in itself. Was it hard specifically for you when you were starting to do exactly what you do?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely hard. Breaking into any kind of media kind of community is a challenge. It's a difficult. You have to prove yourself. You have to go out and convince people that you do know what you're talking about. You are a hard worker. You are somebody that that they're going to want to be connected with in the future. And getting started was most certainly difficult. I mean, and not to mention that there's just not that many opportunities for on-camera positions in the games world like there is in music, like there is in movies and in television. And there's so much competition, especially now with the rise of the YouTube star and with people making gameplay videos in their basement and people making, all kinds of edited green screen stuff, just in their home studios. I mean, you really have to kind of be on the cutting edge to prove to people like, hey, I'm in it to win it, I'm here to stay, and, that's why you should want to know me and want to work with me.
So, going off from that, in your opinion, what would you say is the much more difficult part of the entire task as a whole? Is it much more proving yourself in the eyes of your peers or the other people that are also part of the industry, or is it much more harder showing the public that you're worthy of actually being part of the industry?
I think the public is much more critical than anyone in the industry is, because when you're at industry events, you get the opportunity to talk to people one-on-one in a real setting where you get to jive about games, talk about, like what games you loved when you were young, discuss current games, your opinions about games, and really demonstrate, to people that, that you're actually playing the games that you're talking about. Whereas on the other side, the viewers never get that opportunity. Or I shouldn't say never, but rarely get the opportunity to interface with the personalities that they watch either on the internet or on TV, on channels like like G4 or on Game Trailers TV. So I mean, it's one of those situations where the viewers are much more difficult to win over than people in the industry are by far.
So let me ask you this, in your opinion, what was, or at least throughout your experience, what was probably the most like intricate or the most kind of like creative or hardest thing that you actually had to do in order to really put yourself out there in the industry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
What I asked was that what in your experience, what was the hardest thing that you had to do, or the kind of the most intricate or creative thing that you had to actually do in order to really kind of put yourself out there in the industry to show that you were worthy, you yourself as being a part of this industry?
Wow, that's a difficult question to answer. I don't even know. Like, I guess I don't really can't think of like a defining moment of something that I did that was particularly difficult as related to putting myself out there. I think kind of every day has its own challenges, and every project has its own challenges. I mean, and just kind of getting your name out there in the atmosphere that where people understand and know who you are and know what you're doing in the environment. I think that repetition is key. I think that making sure that your material has quality is key. I think that being consistent and being reliable is also key. You know what I mean? I can't. Yeah. I guess I would say I can't think of a specific thing that was like an obstacle I had to overcome, because it's still an uphill battle. Every day is a challenge, and when you're trying to, get on the rise in any kind of job situation, and media in particular is definitely difficult.
So, since we pretty much established that it's in and of itself a really hard battle, an uphill battle, like you said. So, let me ask you this. What is technically the biggest, or at least for you, the biggest perks out of being a part of this industry and actually putting in all that hard work and devotion into it? What is, the kind of rewards that you actually reap from your actual hard work?
Wow, there's so many. Honestly, the people are probably one of the biggest rewards. Like, getting into this industry, I've gotten to meet so many amazing people, from fans that I've gotten to interact with to other journalists and other reporters that work in the field that I get to meet at press preview events and things like that. And then, of course, there's so many great people on the development side as well, on the publishing side. PR people, marketing people, developers, designers, producers. There's a lot of really amazing personalities and really cool people in the games industry, and I think that's one of the biggest perks, is getting to kind of work in this really fun environment. And of course, the games, getting to play the games. Like, as far as working with a product, like, what better product to work with than something that's specifically designed to be a fun recreational experience? You know what I mean? It's not like I'm selling pharmaceuticals here. So it's one of those things, like, it's hard to complain. It's funny because I just talked with Hip Hop Gamer about this almost exact same question, and he asked me what I liked most about working in the games industry, and I said the people too. But I mean, come on, the parties are pretty awesome too. Can't forget about those.
That sounds pretty cool. So, before we kind of close off this part of the interview, let me ask you this one last question. If you could, if possible, whether you could remember or if, you're under NDA or embargo or anything, what was your most funniest or your most embarrassing moment working in the industry or, interviewing a specific person or celebrity or whatnot?
Well, funniest or most embarrassing? I can't think of a really most embarrassing moment off the top of my head. I haven't had like any major flubs in interviews. Thank goodness, because that would be horrible if I made that kind of a mistake. But I mean, I've had some really fun, awesome interviews. I think I always tell people like one of my most favorite, like funny interviews I ever did was with Charles Martinet, who's the voice of Mario. And has been and has worked with Nintendo for 20 years on that franchise. He was just such an amazing personality in person, and he was so great, and he was just a joy to talk with.
That's pretty cool. So anyway, guys, we're going to come back with another part. Be sure to come back for part 2 as I continue to sit down with Andrea Rene.